Chapter 1226, Chen Xuan's Decision. Chen Xuan understood the thoughts of the Chen family very well. The older generation was slowly stepping down. His fourth uncle was the strongest among the new generation. During the magically rich era, everyone had realized how important the cultivation realm was, especially after the Luniverse appeared. Everyone saw a complete cultivation civilization through these battles. In that civilization, the strong were the rulers. Ordinary people did not have the power to resist. In the past, when mercenary troops carried out killing missions, they needed detailed plans. They needed a plan A and a plan B, but after they became stronger, it was different. They just had to flatten everything in their way. Thus, all the families changed the way they thought. The families in China all hoped to have a position in the heavenly network, but Nie Ting tightly guarded the heavenly network and ensured that nothing could leak. None of them had a chance. The greatest advantage that the Chen family had was that Chen Bailey was a heavenly king. They definitely had a lot of authority. But Chen Bailey was not interested in fighting for power and position. He did not even have a house of his own. How could you hope that he had any worldly desires? Chen Xuan's fourth uncle had discussed with Chen Bailey. He hoped that Chen Bailey would be able to help the Chen family continue to shine, but after Chen Bailey helped the family to obtain some resources, he no longer cared. To him, too many resources would harm the younger generation. He was particularly concerned about the two new young people in the Chen family, Chen Xuan's cousins. After he was able to train, he became a playboy in the capital. He did not do honest work. Training was their capital that allowed them to shine, but they had never seen their ability as their responsibility. Ever since then, Chen Bailey did not ask about what was happening in the family. Now, Chen Xuan's fourth uncle turned his eyes towards Chen Xuan. Many people had realized that the current Chen Xuan, the fatty that they had overlooked, was now on par in the heavenly network with Chen Bailey. How many rank 1 experts were there in the country? Out of the 11 heavenly king, not all of them were rank 1s either. Chen Xuan definitely had the ability to fight for the position of heavenly king. This caused the Chen family to have new ambitions. They hoped that Chen Xuan would become the new heavenly king and pave the way for the new generation of the Chen family. Read more chapter on VIPnovel.com. If Lu Shu was here, he would realize that the fourth uncle was not much different from the heads of the families in the palace. But the people of the Luniverse knew that it was very difficult for masters to emerge from the families in the palace, as their hearts were not pure enough. At this moment, Chen Xuan had rejected his fourth uncle. According to his fourth uncle, he had threatened to cut off Chen Xuan's relations with his family. His fourth uncle also felt somewhat helpless. In the past, very few members of the family dared to leave the family, as they had always benefited from the resources and support of the family. But Chen Xuan and Chen Bailey had not received much resources from the family. Chen Xuan's achievements were because of the 9th heavenly king. The 9th heavenly king. The Chen family felt that this was Chen Xuan's greatest advantage. The legendary heavenly king occupied a high position in the heavenly network. It could be said that he was the third in power within the heavenly network. Even outsiders were unable to determine whether the 9th heavenly king or Nie Ting was more powerful. When the large families looked at problems, they still maintained their past habits. It was not easy to change these habits. They focused more on interpersonal relationships. For example, Chen Xuan and Lu Shu were like brothers. Even though Chen Xuan was a rank 2, he was worth their investment and support. But they did not expect Chen Xuan to reject them so frankly. To Chen Xuan, he had interacted with Lu Shu for a long time. He felt that everything in the past seemed like fake prosperity. He would only be strong if he trained himself. If his family was the cage, then he would definitely break out from the family and pursue the self. His fourth uncle slowly calmed down. I was too emotional. I hope that you don't mind. Chen Xuan sighed. Fourth uncle, I finally understand why you have become the commander of this generation. I'll take that as a compliment. His fourth uncle smiled. But I hope that you will think seriously about it. Our family is not giving you any restrictions. We just want to provide you with more resources and a bigger stage. You have no need to reject us so quickly. Chen Xuan thought about it for a long time. Then, he said, Fourth uncle, in the past, I really wanted the family to acknowledge me. But now, I feel that there is no need. It is good enough that I acknowledge myself. It is good enough that Brother Shu and the rest acknowledge me. I have new friends and new comrades. When the space pathway to the Luniverse opened, I suddenly felt that even if I die with them, it will be worth it. You don't have to take the risk. His fourth uncle raised his tone. You might not understand what I am talking about. Chen Xuan earnestly said, I am willing to fight alongside them. This is why I train. It is not because I want to obtain resources for the family and live a long life. I will go to the Luniverse, not because I want to obtain any achievements. I want my growth to be useful to Lu Shu. To me, he is my friend and my teacher. I need to help him, like how he helped me in the past. Chen Xuan's fourth uncle observed Chen Xuan. He was suddenly fatigued. At one period of time, he suddenly recalled an age where he was as passionate. Back then, everything was pleasant. He would even personally write love letters to girls. Chen Xuan said, let me tell you something. Mediocre people are trapped in the cage of interpersonal relations, while the enlightened only race with themselves. I will treat you for this meal. Although my salary is not much, it is enough to support myself. With that, Chen Xuan turned and left, leaving his fourth uncle deep in thought. When Chen Xuan was leaving, he took 2 bananas, but was stopped by a waitress. Sir, you are not allowed to take away food from a buffet restaurant. Chen Xuan was dumbfounded. Are you sure? The waitress was at a loss. Yes. Then, she watched as Chen Xuan turned back and ate 10 chicken legs and 10 steaks. The boss behind the counter was about to explode from rage. Let him take the bananas and leave. His fourth uncle watched all of this, dumbstruck. He had been thinking about what Chen Xuan had said. He felt that the fatty was very deep. His words made people ponder about them. But how did the fatty change in an instant? His fourth uncle mysteriously laughed. When he came today, he did not expect that he would go into action, but he was disciplined by his junior. He even acted impetuously against a small buffet restaurant. Chapter 12:27, Replacement Heavenly Kings. While Chen Xuan drove back to Longmen Fortress, he was deep in thought. He was very clear that his parents still supported him, as everything had been carried out by his fourth uncle. His parents had not said anything. When he wanted to go to the Salt Lake Remains to train, his parents asked Chin Bailey for an opportunity because they supported him. The people who understood him most in the world were his parents. Could he really cut off all ties with the Chen family? Probably not. After all, they were related by blood. Chen Xuan was not a heartless person. When he entered the Longmen Fortress, a soldier from the Heavenly Network checked his documents and identity at the checkpoint. Chen Xuan was very cooperative. When he left, he thanked his comrades for their hard work. But when he drove past, before he could roll up his windows, he heard someone softly say, "Wow, was that Chen Xuan?" Yes. You just came from the northeast, so you have never seen him before. During the battle at the Longmen Fortress, the 4 Rank 1 experts fought a Rank 1 patron from the Black Feather Army. When I think about that battle, I get fired up, said another soldier. The 4 Rank 1 experts referred to Chen Xuan, Chen Bailey, Li Aixiao, and Naylan K. When Chen Xuan heard this, he could not help but sit up straight. His somewhat stiff expression relaxed into a smile. He softly muttered, "Am I that famous?" The feeling of not being acknowledged by his family was like a dark cloud. even thought he was more steadfast now, he was still affected. But when he obtained the acknowledgement of his comrades, the dark clouds dispersed. He was sure about what path he had to embark on. It was just that no one had acknowledged him. In the past, he had never felt that he was amazing, as he had always been by Lu Shu's side. Lu Shu was one of the most prominent figures in the heavenly network, causing Chen Zuan to be overlooked. But, he was very powerful. He had thought about it. How good would it be if his family was able to use resources to help him obtain the position of Heavenly King? The title of Heavenly King in the Heavenly Network was very noble. They were leaders who shone in the Heavenly Network. His family might not have any say in promoting him to the position of Heavenly King, but if outsiders felt that the support from a top family did not mean much, then they were underestimating the power of the families. Thus, it was as if Chen Zuan had rejected the possibility of becoming a Heavenly King. Becoming a Heavenly King? He would talk about it if he came back alive from the Luniverse. Chen Zuan laughed as he drove. For some reason, Chen Zuan felt that he was far away from the position of Heavenly King. Although he had the strength, he felt that he lacked something. When he thought about this, he grew slightly dejected. After all, becoming a Heavenly King was the dream of every practitioner in the Heavenly Network. When Chen Zuan drove past the headquarters, he was stopped by Zhong Yutong. Chen Zuan looked up. Zhong Yutong was poking his head out of a window. Chen Zuan, come here. We have something to discuss with you. Chen Zuan was puzzled. What was happening? He stopped the car and walked up. At that moment, Chen Zuan suddenly realized that Hao Jichao was already waiting for him at the entrance. Furthermore, he was smirking. What is happening? Chen Zuan was bewildered. When he opened the door to Zhong Yutong's office, Chen Zuan saw Nie Ting, Shi Xuejin, Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu, Chen Beili, Li Yixiao, Nailan Ke, and Zhong Yutong sitting inside. What was this grand formation? It was as if all the core pillars of the Heavenly Network were present. What are we doing? Chen Zuan felt slightly guilty. I didn't commit any crimes recently, right? Suddenly, the door behind him opened. Chang Qiuqiao walked in, equally dumbfounded. Zhong Yutong looked around. Then, he said, shall I have the honor of announcing this? Nie Ting nodded his head. Everyone remained tight-lipped. Chen Zuan started to panic. Zhong Yutong explained to Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao. We have been discussing this for a week. You should have seen Feng Yeming and Feng Yunlu before. They are brothers. Yes. Why? Chen Zuan asked curiously. Back then, we desperately needed their strength to fill in the gaps in the Heavenly Network. Thus, we gave them the position of Heavenly King. But they did not want to become Heavenly Kings. Zhong Yutong patiently explained, they are willing to play online games, but are not willing to go out. We cannot do anything about this. They are willing to fight for the Heavenly Network, but are not willing to settle the affairs that the Heavenly Network needs to deal with. It has been over a year since they submitted their application to withdraw from their position. After serious consideration, Heavenly King Nia has given his approval. Are they going to leave the Heavenly Network? Chen Zuan was shocked. They are not leaving. Hao Jichao explained, they are only willing to be ordinary Heavenly Network members. They do not want to handle official affairs as they do not want to waste the time they could have spent playing games. Thus, they are willing to become ordinary members. They do not want to become Heavenly Kings. Oh. Chen Zuan's heart started to beat quickly. He knew that when this group of people gathered, something major was about to happen. Lu Shu smiled. Thus, after a unanimous vote, we decided to allow you and Cheng Qiuqiao to. Cheng Qiuqiao and Chen Zuan looked at Lu Shu. Their eyes lit up. But suddenly, Chen Zuan had an unpleasant premonition. If others had said this, there was a 90% chance that it was good news. But if it was Lu Shu telling them, he felt very uncomfortable. Lu Shu paused. Then, he smiled. We decided to allow you and Cheng Qiuqiao to fill in the empty Heavenly King positions. Are you willing? This time, Lu Shu was not joking. He did not earn distress points either. It was as if the title of Heavenly King was something even Lu Shu respected and feared. Thus, it was not appropriate for him to crack jokes under these circumstances. Chen Xuan's eyes suddenly turned red. Really? Cheng Qiuqiao, who was beside him, was completely dumbstruck. It was as if he was shocked. That afternoon, Chen Xuan had personally rejected support from his family. At that moment, he felt that he no longer had any fate with the position of Heavenly King. Although it was a shame and a pity, what could he do? He had his own decisions. But at this moment, everyone in front of him was smiling at him. It was as if life had secretly prepared a surprise for him. Nie Ting stood up. He looked amused. Back then in the capital, you still dared to skip the Daoyuan class. Now, you have become a Heavenly King, but Chen Xuan is here. Whoever dares to stop me? This sentence was very powerful. You sounded like a Heavenly King. Needless to say, when Cheng Qiuqiao's life and responsibility clashed, he chose responsibility. This was an awareness that a Heavenly King needed. This made it sound as if Heavenly Kings had to sacrifice their lives, but they carried this belief with them. Thus, they fiercely guarded their territory. Chapter 12:28, Traveling Down Memory Lane. Feng Yeming and Feng Yinlu were obsessed with online games and were unable to free themselves, but they still fought for the Heavenly Network. They just did not deal with daily affairs. The vacant Heavenly King positions had to be filled in. Chen Xuan and Cheng Qiuqiao were the best choices. If they were strong without substance, they would not have been chosen. But their rate of growth was shocking. They had obtained great prestige within the Heavenly Network. The others left, leaving only Chen Bailey behind. He quietly looked at Chen Bailey. I know that your fourth uncle has gone to find you. This family has a long history of abuse. It is not something that we can save. I know that he will promise you many conditions. We did not make the decision to promote you to Heavenly King because we knew that he wanted to pull you in. In reality, we started secret discussions half a month ago. We only officially put it on the agenda last week. Oh. I rejected him, said Chen Xuan in a low voice. Your father and mother will support all of your decisions. Thus, you do not have to be completely disappointed in this family. Chen Bailey said, in the past, I thought that you were a playboy who did not do honest work. But now, I have newfound respect for you. Chen Xuan smiled. Second Master, you don't have to be so earnest. It is still unknown what kind of people we are able to defeat. Chen Bailey seriously observed Chen Xuan. Suddenly, he laughed. I know. The people in the Chen family. At night, Chen Xuan and Cheng Qiuqiao sat on the sofa in Lu Shu's living room. They happily looked at their appointment certificates. It was proof that they were Heavenly Kings. It had more symbolic meaning than practical use. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyu shouted from the kitchen. Serve the food. The two of them did not move. They were still overjoyed over becoming Heavenly Kings. Lu Xiaoyu expressionlessly walked out with a frying pan. Do you no longer need to serve food because you are now Heavenly Kings? Chen Xuan was speechless. Cheng Qiuqiao was speechless. The two of them quickly ran into the kitchen before Lu Xiaoyu exploded. Lu Xiaoyu used reality to explain something to them. Even Heavenly Kings had to serve food and wash dishes here. Read more chapter on VIPnovel.com. In the past, Lu Xiaoyu did not serve them food, not because they were not Heavenly King. Now, she would not treat them differently because their identities had changed. When they ate, Chen Xuan carefully said, today's fish is slightly bland. Lu Xiaoyu laughed coldly. What? Have you become picky because you are a heavenly king? Chen Zuan was dumbstruck. Was he not allowed to comment if the food was bland? For some reason, he started to regret becoming a heavenly king. At this moment, Chen Zuan looked at Lu Shu and said, Brother Shu, the two of us will definitely follow you to the Luniverse. Don't reject us anymore. Lu Shu glanced at them. Then, he said to Lu Xiaoyu, the fish is slightly bland. Chen Zuan was waiting for Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu to argue. But once Lu Shu finished speaking, Lu Xiaoyu immediately furrowed her eyebrows, let me grill it a bit more and add salt. What was this preferential treatment? I will no longer stop you, but it is the first time that you are visiting the Luniverse. Be careful, said Lu Shu. He felt that by bringing the two of them to the Luniverse, he would be able to assign responsibilities to them and increase the strength of the Weiwu army. Lu Shu took out 2 sets of black armor from his Seal of Lands. This is called the armor that shook mountains. You have seen these before. Tomorrow, pass your bronze armor to the Heavenly Network. When you go to the Luniverse, wear this. Since Lu Shu had decided to let them go with him, he would not be stingy. Furthermore, he still had a few extra sets of the armor that shook mountains. The Weiwu army did not have many new rank 1 experts who were able to make full use of the armor that shook mountains' full potential. Recently, after a chat between Lu Shu and Ouyang Lisheng, they realized that their use of the armor that shook mountains was too basic. The armor that shook mountains was able to shock Duanmu Huangqi, as there was a trump card hidden within. But back then, Duanmu Huangqi did not know that Lu Shu had not realized the actual function of the armor that shook mountains. If not, Duanmu Huangqi would not have been so afraid. Late in the night, Lu Shu sat alone in his room. After much hesitation, he finally stood up. There was something in his heart he had repressed for 2 years. Today, he finally decided to try again. Lu Shu's magical instincts went deep into the Seal of Lands. He glanced over the entire area of the Seal of Lands. Then, he went within the Seal of Lands, where a large door was. Lu Shu had wanted to open it, but failed. Today, he wanted to try again. Lu Shu used both his hands and pushed the door. A hole appeared in the door, which had originally been tightly shut. But Lu Shu was not surprised. He had predicted that he was able to do this. There seemed to be a door within the relic in each of the remains. Those who possessed the relic only had to open the door in order to return to the remains. Lu Shu looked at everything around him. It was familiar, yet foreign. This was the first remains he had experienced after the dawn of the magically rich era, the Beimang remains. Coming here was like traveling down memory lane. Lu Shu could even remember how he had snatched a spear from the skeleton soldiers. There was the sound of wind behind him. Lu Shu snapped his fingers and sword energy appeared. The skeleton behind him crumbled into dust. It was as if it did not have any time to struggle. Lu Shu realized that the other skeleton soldiers did not dare to surround him. It was as if they had discovered that Lu Shu was not someone they could deal with. Lu Shu knew that these skeleton soldiers had low intelligence. They could only provide him with 1 distress points, but there was a ghost controlling them. The first time Lu Shu came, he felt that this place was filled with danger. This time, it was as if Lu Shu was strolling through a courtyard. He came to the pit in the middle of the remains. Back then, the spies from Japan had jumped down here and completed the dark ritual. Lu Shu jumped down. He was not afraid of the danger that might be lurking. The skeleton soldiers retreated. In the end, they fled to the deepest part of the cavern, the demon mansion. Lu Shu realized that the corpses of the Japanese spies were no longer there. They might have even become skeletons. Lu Shu stood in front of the door of the ghost mansion. He calmly said, I'll give you 3 breaths to come out, oh. You can't breathe. Then I'll give you 3 seconds. The door of the ghost mansion opened with a creak. Lu Shu saw the ghost general as it walked out. It was supposed to have a spear in its hands, but the previous time the remains opened, the spear had been snatched away by Li Yixiao. Back then, it had been a perfect massacre. The red eyes of the ghost general were blazing behind its mask. It was as if he was concealing its anger. But he did not move. He knew that he could not defeat Lu Shu. The young man in front of him caused him to feel despair. Chapter 12:29, Bringing Up the Past. Lu Shu looked at the ghost general. Can you speak? Are you the person who took away the seal of lands? The ghost general asked. A low voice sounded from the gap in its jaw. To be honest, the ghost general was slightly dejected. Back then, when the seal of lands was taken away, it did not even see who had taken it. A group of Heavenly Network soldiers had been attacking, while Li Yixiao grabbed his spear and did not let go. In the end, it gave up on its spear and retreated back to the ghost mansion. But the seal of lands was gone. Back then, 12 terracotta soldiers were protecting the place. Based on the information the terracotta soldiers had reported, not only had the young man taken away the seal of lands, he had even taken their spears. What a cheater! Lu Shu laughed cheerily. Yes, I was the one who took it. But at that moment, the ghost general suddenly knelt down. Welcome, God Lu. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. How did you know? Back then, when you threatened the terracotta soldiers, you used your representative weapon. The ghost general earnestly said, I did not expect to be able to see you again. Wait. Lu Shu was very surprised. You have seen Corpse Dog before. Back then, he had relied on the ability of Corpse Dog to kill spirits and took away 12 magical spears from the terracotta soldiers. But even Zhang Weiyu and the rest did not recognize Corpse Dog. Why did this ghost general recognize it? This ghost general was different. Of course I have seen Corpse Dog, said the ghost general. Once I have seen it, I can never forget about it. I thought everyone who has seen Corpse Dog is dead. Lu Shu was puzzled. The ghost general hesitated. Suddenly, he said, Am I not dead? Lu Shu was silent. Oh. Lu Shu finally understood. This ghost general had been killed by the old king of gods. Thus, it had seen Corpse Dog before. Read more chapter on VIPnovel.com. Lu Shu had not thought about this. There was nothing wrong with this logic. All the people who had seen Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow were dead. The one in front of him was a dead person after all. Lu Shu did not know whether to laugh or to cry. I don't look like the old king of gods either. Typically, your appearance changes all the time. I only need to see the weapons you are carrying. The last time you came, you changed your appearance as well, said the ghost general carefully. Although he had also sensed that something was wrong, he did not dare to say anything. Lu Shu realized that the old king of gods also carried the mask to change his appearance when he traveled. Thus, the mask he had obtained in the past was also frequently used by the old king of gods. Lu Shu sighed with emotion. If only he had known earlier that everyone who protected the remains liked to curry favor. Why did he waste so much energy back then? He should have just revealed his identity. Of course, he was being rash. After all, there were many traitors among those who protected the remains, such as the Blood Devil. He did not know whether it would be a blessing or a curse if they knew his identity. Cloudy and Tigerji had always been helping him to gather his old army, but many people did not even listen to the puppet masters. People changed. The problem of loyalty was a hoax. They were only loyal towards power, not a certain person. Thus, Lu Shu did not feel that it was a pity for the guardians of the remains to have died. After all, this ghost general had been killed by the old king of gods. Why was he killed? He must have committed a mistake. Lu Shu observed the ghost general. When were you sent here? There are no seasons here, so I have forgotten. Probably a few decades ago. Over the past few years, I have suffered every day. I now know where I have gone wrong. God Lu, please let me out. I will atone for my crimes with good deeds, said the ghost general as he knelt down. The ghost general was sincere, but Lu Shu shook his head. He did not intend to let this ghost out. After all, he did not understand this ghost general. If Cloudy and Tigerji were around, he would be able to ask about the ghost general. But Cloudy and Tigerji were eating hot pot in the Luniverse. This was worrying. The ghost general did not even dare to lift up its head. It could be seen how terrifying the old king of gods was in its heart. Lu Shu curiously asked, "What were you in your previous life?" The ghost general was suddenly dumbfounded. How could Lu Shu not know about his previous identity after killing him? This did not make sense. The ghost general started to doubt Lu Shu's identity. If the person in front of it was really God Lu, he would not have had to take away the seal of lands secretly. There was no one in this world who was able to defeat God Lu, right? But Lu Shu's strength was like the stars in the night sky. It could be fake. At least, the ghost general would not be able to defeat him. This conflicting information confused the ghost general. It could not wrap its head around what exactly had happened. In my previous life, I was a rank 1 palace guard, said the ghost general after some deliberation. What is your name? Lu Shu asked curiously. Su Yuanxian, said the ghost general. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. He took out Seizing Thief and pointed it at the ghost general. I was asking you for your name. What pinyin, 1, are you talking about? The ghost general was about to burst into tears. What is pinyin? My real name is Su Yuanxian. From Su Yuanxuan's distress, plus 666. Oh. Lu Shu nodded his head, indicating that he had understood. The name Su Yuanxian seemed to have taken a different approach from Lu Yulu, but the result was the same. Lu Shu asked. Then why did I kill you? The ghost general was shocked. You were the one who killed me. Why were you asking me? He could not accept this. It sounded like he would be killed. It was like being scolded by one's parents when one was young. When they asked you whether you knew where you had gone wrong, they did not want you to actually know what mistake you had committed. They just wanted to humiliate you. Lu Shu unkindly said, if you tell the truth, we will be done. Why are you hesitating? Oh. The ghost general said, that night, you wore casual clothes and walked around the palace of the king of gods. I was guarding the North City gate. Suddenly there were sounds of murder from the palace of the king of gods. Not long after, I saw Lord Arcane and Lord Zhang Weiyu. They wanted to pass through the North City gate. I did not dare to stop them and let them through. But after you returned, you were furious and killed the servants there and punished me by never allowing me to reincarnate. Then, you ordered me to protect this place to make amends for my past crimes. Lu Shu calmly looked at Su Yuanxian. Had this happened 23 years ago? Thus, Su Yuanxian had probably been thrown here by the old king of gods 23 years ago. Everything that had happened that night was probably plotted by Arcane, Zhang Weiyu, and the rest. It was as if everything had started that night. Lu Shu calmly asked, did you realize that anything was wrong that night? Back then, I was panicking. Thus, I did not realize anything. Su Yuanxian said, no. I have been thinking here for many years. Every time I recall what happened that night, I feel that one detail is very strange. Lu Shu furrowed his eyebrows. What detail? That night, Lord Zhang Weiyu and Lord Arcane were not injured. No one was injured. Su Yuanxian explained, but the sounds of killing were very loud, someone should have been injured. Chapter 1230, What Happened in the Palace of the King of Gods. Lu Shu agreed with what Su Yuanxian had said. There was something strange about this detail. Rationally, Arcane and Zhang Weiyu had taken the chance while the old King of Gods was out to attack the palace of the King of Gods. They claimed that they were eliminating the corrupt ministers under the emperor. Then, they escaped from the North City Gate. But how had there been no injuries during this attack? There were 2 owners in the palace of the King of Gods. Although one of them had been out, the other was not a helpless damsel. How did the person who had plotted this ensure that Arcane, Zhang Weiyu, and the rest could kill without being injured? Something was strange. Lu Shu looked at Su Yuanqian. Was there anything else that was strange? No, said Su Yuanqian earnestly. Back then, the panic that Lord Arcane, Lord Zhang Weiyu, and the rest showed were what they were supposed to be showing. Not long after the Imperial Palace soldiers escaped to the north, they were caught by you. Then, those who were supposed to disappear disappeared, and those who were supposed to be exiled went into exile. I was also killed by you for overlooking my job. That day, blood flowed through the palace. Many people were angered. Those who had disappeared had probably been killed by the old King of Gods. Lu Shu sighed. That's right. When they escaped from the North Gate, did they have the world tied with them? Yes, but they were all confiscated later on. I'm not sure either, said Su Yuanqian. Lu Shu felt that this trip had not been wasted. At least he had obtained some information that allowed him to piece together the truth. It was a pity that these pieces were too scattered. Su Yuanqian knelt on the floor and earnestly said, I have learned from my mistakes. Please, let me go. I will think about this when I get to the Luniverse. Lu Shu thought about it and said, I won't be able to let you go for now. Furthermore, I need to confirm what you have said with Zhang Weiyu. Su Yuanqian was dumbfounded. Zhang Weiyu? He's still alive? In Su Yuanchuan's memory, the foundations of Zhang Weiyu and the rest had been broken for many years. They should have been dead. Furthermore, he had started to doubt Lu Shu's identity. After all, he did not seem to be like the old King of Gods. But now, he discovered that Zhang Weiyu was with Lu Shu. He was not sure anymore. Of course, he did not know that the old King of Gods had secretly sent Zhang Weiyu and the rest to the fields to wait for his eventual return, one day. From the look of things, Lu Shu still had to ask Zhang Weiyu and Arcane about a few things. Only Zhang Weiyu, Arcane, and the rest would know what had happened that night. Read more chapter on VIPnovel.com. Lu Shu looked at Su Yuanqian and stepped into a void. He arrived at the place where he first encountered Little Fury. When the squirrels in the forest saw Lu Shu, it was as if they still remembered him. They started to throw fruits at him. But Lu Shu did not care. He cheerily captured all the squirrels and left the world of the Seal of Lands. Lu Shu came to the living room and saw Little Fury doing its mathematics homework. He smiled. Do you want a present? Little Fury was instantly alert. It said, Are you going to give me a pile of winter homework? Of course not. Lu Shu laughed out loud. Then, he released all the squirrels from the celestial map. He realized that Little Fury was completely dumbfounded. Then, a group of squirrels gathered Little Fury and started to chatter. Little Fury's eyes started to brim with tears. It had lost its imperial concubines, but they had returned. Although Little Fury had many underlings, they were of a different species. It could not possibly form new feelings for them. A new king had not emerged among this group of squirrels after Little Fury left. Now that they had reunited with Little Fury, they were extremely touched. Lu Shu led Lu Xiaoyu out of the door. Give them some time for their reunion after a long parting. Lu Shu was afraid that if they left any later, Lu Xiaoyu would see something that was inappropriate for children. They sat on the rooftop and relayed the information to Zhang Weiyu. They asked him to come over at once. Not long after, Zhang Weiyu arrived. Lu Shu went straight to the point. On that night 23 years ago, What did you encounter at the palace of the King of Gods? Why were you able to escape unharmed? Zhang Weiyu was silent. Then, he asked, why do you ask? Why do you know that we were unharmed? I found Su Yuanxian. He told me about it. Lu Shu did not hide the truth from Zhang Weiyu. I just want to know what happened that night. Were you successful? Zhang Weiyu recalled. Lord Arcane plotted this with us for 3 months. We waited until the old King of Gods was out. That night, we attacked the palace of the King of Gods, but the most unexpected thing happened. What happened? Lu Shu furrowed his eyebrows. We were not the one who killed Lurel. Zhang Weiyu sighed. When we entered the palace of the King of Gods, it was empty. After 3 months of planning, she should have been in the palace. But that night, she disappeared. We felt that we had been exposed. Thus, we ran through the north gate. But we were caught after running 150 kilometers away. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. What had happened? There was no one in the palace of the King of Gods? Earlier, he had heard of what had happened 23 years ago in the palace of the King of Gods. He had thought that Arcane and the rest had succeeded. But according to what Zhang Weiyu had said, they did not see anyone in the palace. How were they supposed to kill anyone? Many people probably assumed that there was a new King of Gods in the palace of the King of Gods. This was what the people in the Luniverse thought. Only recently, Duanmu Huangqi started to suspect that there was no one in the palace of the King of Gods. Thus, he decided to rebel. Over the past decade, there had been orders from the palace of the King of Gods. Although they were very few, there were still orders. This was the reason Duanmu Huangqi was afraid. There were no more Imperial Dragon soldiers and Imperial Palace soldiers. No one had entered the palace of the King of Gods. No one had left either. It was natural for Duanmu Huangqi to have doubts. If it were Lu Shu, he would also feel that something was weird when no one had emerged from the palace of the King of Gods in over 10 years. But who was the person in the palace of the King of Gods? Many people believed that the new King of Gods was Lurel. This was what the entire Luniverse thought. Only a few people started to doubt the reality. But Coral was now 23 years old. Perhaps Zhang Weiyu and the rest really did not see Lurel that night, but Lurel had left the Luniverse and became Coral during that period. What caused Lurel to make the decision to abandon everything? Was it because of the head of the Sword Hut? Or something else? God Lu and Lurel, who possessed the Dark Map, both left the Luniverse. Then who had been giving out orders in the palace of the King of Gods for the past 18 years? Was it the mastermind who caused the old King of Gods to leave the Luniverse? The person who had chased and killed the puppet masters. For some reason, Lu Shu suddenly felt that he was becoming more and more confused. It was as if he would be able to understand the truth if he found the mastermind behind all these events. Lu Shu looked at Zhang Weiyu. Do you have anything you want to ask me? Zhang Weiyu shook his head. You will naturally let me know when it is time. Furthermore, when you go to the Luniverse, everything will be revealed. I look forward to that day.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, then we just put 'em on the shelf. Try to look to the heavens.